Hey, good morning, everybody. What do you say? It's Monday morning, November 18th. So good to see you today. Hope you had a great weekend and are ready to jump into another busy week here in our nation's capital. This is the Bill Press Show. We'll tell you what's going on, not only here in our nation's capital, around the country, around the globe. And open up the phones, open up the websites, and take your comments. Look forward to hearing from you by phone at 866-55-PRESS. I want to see your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Yes, President Obama may have apologized and come up with his fix for those people who already have health insurance plans that they like and want to keep. He did that on Thursday, but it didn't do much good on Friday. 39 Democrats in the House defected and joined House Republicans in approving the Fred Upton bill by a vote of 251 to 167. That bill, which would in effect delay Obamacare for an entire year. So obviously, and meanwhile, the Senate, with the help of some Democrats, is considering similar legislation. So, pardon me, President Obama clearly still has his hands full. In other news, MSNBC has suspended Alec Baldwin and temporarily put his show on the shelf because he called a reporter a gay slur. They should never have given Alec Baldwin a show in the first place. Of course, it's like back when they hired Michael Savage. They should have known better. God punished Washington's football team for not changing the name, getting crushed yesterday by the Eagles, of course. And finally, Mount Etna decided to erupt just when I'm about to leave for Sicily on vacation. We'll tell you all about it right here on The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad, as a friend, as a husband,
As a wife.
as an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Another week, another set of battles over the Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare. It ain't over yet. Good morning, everybody. Great to see you today. Sure hope you had a great weekend. Had a chance to, cool your jets, recharge your batteries, whatever. Kick back, have a good time, watch some football, enjoy time with some friends, maybe see a movie, get the house cleaned up, all that kind of stuff you do on the weekend. take the laundry out, and then come back all charged up here for a Monday morning to take a look at the big stories of the day and talk about it here on the Bill Press Show, coming to you live on your local progressive talk radio station, wherever you happen to be in this great land of ours. We are there with you with the news of the day and ready to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Looking forward to your comments on Twitter. Keep that Twitter humming at BP Show. That's our Twitter handle, at BP Show. And we want to hear from all of our friends, thousands and thousands and thousands of friends on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Welcome to the program this morning. And don't forget, if you prefer to watch rather than listen, you can do so by, if you got a satellite dish, watch us on the big TV, Free Speech TV, on Direct TV or the Dish Network. And even if you don't have the satellite, you can watch this video stream at TawkrTV, TawkrTV. YouTube.com/TawkrTV is how you find it. Again, good to have you with us this morning, and always good to say hello to the team. Nobody survived the weekend.
We're here.
I'm not sure I did. Peter Ogburn, here we go.
Happy Monday.
With Alicia Cruz standing by to take your calls. Hi, Alicia. And Cyprian Balding made it in as well to keep us looking good on the video cam and on Free Speech TV. Thank you, Cyprian. I got to tell you, my favorite American city, I love Washington, I love New York City, but my favorite American city is San Francisco. That's where I went to start a new life years and years ago, lived there, loved it, ran campaigns in San Francisco, taught high school in San Francisco, worked in campaigns in San Francisco, met my wife in San Francisco, got married in San Francisco. Our first son was born in San Francisco. It's a city that's got a lot of memories for me, and it's just a city that can do fun stuff that no other city would do. Like Friday, there's this little kid, 5 years old. He's been suffering from leukemia, now in remission, thank God, suffering from leukemia since he was 18 months old, and he's gone through treatment after treatment after treatment. And through the Make-A-Wish Foundation, his wish was he wanted to play Batman and save San Francisco, save Gotham. And they gave him the chance, and they treated him royally on Friday. Drove him around the city to like 5 different crime locations in a Lamborghini. He's all dressed in a Batman outfit. And everywhere he went, there were tons of people dressed in Batman stuff who greeted him and cheered him on. Bat Kid, the Bat Kid. Isn't it great?
He went into the baseball stadium to rescue the mascot that they had coordinated with the Giants.
Yeah, they had worked all this stuff out. Yeah.
But it's funny. It's funny you say that, because about how this really could only have really happened in San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, who else would have done
I
this,
really don't know who else would have, because the whole city, whole city basically rallied around this kid, and so people were out of, they'd left work to line the streets to see him.
No, they did. The whole city kind of turned out. I mean, no other city would do that.
Yeah,
no, seriously.
really.
And they really got into the spirit of the thing and got dressed up in the Batman outfits. It just captured the hearts of everybody in San Francisco. And then he ended up at City Hall, where Mayor Ed Lee, a good friend of mine, Mayor Ed Lee, I gave him the keys to the city and gave him a big shout out.
On behalf of San Francisco and Gotham City, I want to thank the Bat Kid for saving our city.
And he said, we hope this is the day, kid, that you'll remember forever and ever.
We wish we can erase the pain that you and your family have experienced. We hope this is the day of magic and that you'll remember this forever. Bat Kid forever in San Francisco.
Bat Kid forever. Isn't that great? Really great.
Very cool.
Oh, my God. Good for San Francisco. It makes me homesick. Hey, we got a lot of help this morning from friends from all of our favorite publications here in Washington, D.C., from the Hotline, from Politico, from The Hill, from Huffington Post. All good reporters along with us to help us through the news of the day. And let's say something about those Democrats who ran for the hills on Friday. But first,
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Last night it was the clash of the football titans. The big Sunday night game saw the unbeaten Kansas City Chiefs take on the record-setting Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos in what was the most anticipated matchup of the week. And, of course, Peyton Manning's injured ankle was the star. Would he have enough to start? He did. And he led the Broncos to a 27-17 win that handed the Chiefs their first loss of the season. Both teams now 9-1.
Wow. And the Giants came roaring back yesterday.
The Giants have now won four in a row. Yeah.
Where's Dan?
Yeah, right. Yeah. A big weekend for Gravity. The movie crossed the $500 million mark globally. This makes it one of the most popular science fiction movies of all time. It's also the biggest box office hit for both Sandra Bullock and George Clooney, stars of the movie. When you think about the movies that they've had and the blockbusters that they've both taken part in, that's really, really incredible that this is the biggest movie that they've been in.
It really is, yeah.
The biggest movie of the weekend, however, was Thor, which repeated its win from last week. Their 10-day total for that superhero flick is now at $147 million in 10 days.
Wow.
Not
it's
bad.
Amazing that Gravity is still doing
Still pulling it in.
Yeah.
Still pulling it in. And you could just call her the Iron Woman from Arizona. Congresswoman Kyrsten Sinema is many things. She is an atheist. She is an open bisexual. She is also a triathlete. And yesterday, she took part in Arizona's Ironman race, which consists of a 2.5-mile swim, then a 112-mile bike ride, and then a 26.2-mile run.
No.
A
marathon on top of all of that?
An Ironman race. She had previously said she was training 7 days a week. The results have not been posted yet, so we don't know how well she did, but she did finish.
I was going to say, if she finished.
She did finish.
If she finished.
Yeah.
That's an accomplishment.
Yeah. No, that's...
I can't believe running a marathon on top of all of that other stuff.
I know some people who do that, and they are insane. They're just crazy people. Your body's not meant to do that.
Yesterday afternoon, by the way, you often see here on the show Neil King, a good friend of ours from the Wall Street Journal, chief political reporter for the Wall Street Journal, who lives about a block from the studio here. And I live not that far away either, and I was parking, and there was Neil just arriving home from Philadelphia, just having run the Philadelphia Marathon.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right.
Yesterday. That is his 6th marathon. And he said the thing about running a marathon and completing it, he beat his best time by 22 minutes.
Whoa. 22, he blew it out of the water.
Yeah, 22 minutes. And he said the thing about running a marathon is you immediately want to do another one. At least some people do.
Yeah, right. Yeah, crazy people.
Indeed. Hey, speaking about crazy people, how about those Democrats who ran for the hills on Friday? So, this whole... And it bothers me because I hate to see politicians panic. And I particularly hate to see Democrats panic. And I think that's what Democrats are doing right now about Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act. Let's talk about it here. I'd love to know what you think at 866-55-PRESS. So Thursday, last week, President Obama, in the briefing room, we talked all about it and said, look, okay, I admit I made a mistake. I didn't speak the whole truth and nothing but the truth when I said people who have an insurance plan which they like, no matter how substandard it is, can keep it, period. So I apologize, and I'm going to come up with a fix that those people can keep their plan, at least for a year, and states have to work that out with their insurance commissioners. Well, the president did that, of course, because Friday there was a vote scheduled in the House, which basically would delay all of Obamacare for a whole year, and, not only allow insured people to keep those substandard plans, but would allow insurance companies to keep selling those substandard plans, which is crazy, which is just contradictory to what the Affordable Care Act is all about. That bill by Fred Upton, Energy and Commerce chair in the House, Republican, of course. So the president knew that bill was coming up, knew that some Democrats might be tempted to vote for it, so that's why he did what he did, his big apology and his fix on Thursday. Well, it wasn't good enough for some Democrats because that bill came up on Friday. They voted about 11 o'clock Friday on the Fred Upton bill. It passed 251 to 167. I was sitting in the White House briefing room during the briefing with Jay Carney when that vote was announced. I got it on as a flash on my iPhone, and I immediately started thinking, "Oh my God, man, that dozens of Democrats had to vote for it and I started trying to do the count, and sure enough, 39 Democrats. 39 Democrats. I got the list right here. Defected. Said to President Obama, basically, it's not good enough. What you said is not good enough. We are going to run for the hills. And they believed the rhetoric they heard from Fred Upton. Here's Fred Upton, author of the bill, chairman of the committee, saying President Obama will be remembered for his promise.
Across generations, presidencies are often associated with one famous utterance: ask not what your country can do for you. The only thing we have to fear, tear down this wall. And our current president will be no different. If you like your health care plan, you can keep it, period.
Blah, 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 blah. But Sheila Jackson, and the president should not have said it that way. I mean, I think he was misinformed, and he did misinform the public, a very small slice of the public, those who were wealthy enough to buy health insurance on their own, less than 5% of the American public. Sheila Jackson Lee from Texas, I think, told it just like it is. Here's this bill was no damn good.
The Upton bill comes today disguised as a sheep in wolf's clothing. It discriminates against people with pre-existing conditions. It restores annual caps on the amount of care you can receive, and it forces women to pay more than men for the same coverage.
And here's what happened. Again, 39 Democrats said, oh, we're so afraid of this. We're so afraid of this issue because we have to run for re-election next year. And we're so afraid somebody could use this against us that they voted for the Upton bill. Knowing, by the way, that Upton bill is not going to get anywhere. It's not going to get through the Senate, and President Obama would never sign it. But they were just ducking for cover. They were panicking. I think it was a Chicken Little moment. And I think they are chicken, to vote the way that they did. And there are some good people on this list. I admit, young Patrick Murphy from Florida, John Garamendi from California, Peter DeFazio from Oregon, even Tammy Duckworth from Illinois, Jim Costa from California. But I just think that they are, and by the way, Kirsten Sinema, the one the triathlon person, she didn't show much courage there. I think they are spooked unnecessarily by this legislation. Look, remember, it was only a month ago, right, that everybody was saying, God, Republicans are dead next year. They're probably going to lose the House next year because they shut down the government, and that was so bad, so bad. And now suddenly Democrats are saying that it's changed that dramatically in that short a time, and now we stand to lose because of the problems with the Affordable Care Act. I mean, let's be real. Number one, there's a whole year before these Democrats are up for re-election. This is November 2013. They're not up for re-election until 2014. It's a long time in politics. Number two, yeah, there were some problems with the launch, clearly with the website. There are some problems with this existing plans thing and the president's rhetoric. But those problems are going to be fixed, and they're well on their way to getting fixed already. And number three, there might have been a little rocky start to the launch of these healthcare exchanges. But the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare is a good program. Some 40 million Americans are going to end up with health insurance for the first time ever. They never could afford it before to protect themselves and their families. And they're going to be able to do so. And the insurance companies won't be able to dump you or deny you coverage for a pre-existing condition. And they won't be able to dump you if you have a serious, or a member of your family, if they have a serious illness. And all of those, and preventive care is available, and healthcare costs overall are going down. All the great benefits of Obamacare. This is still a bill, despite these little problems, that Democrats, I think, can run on, ought to run on, and should not run away from. These Democrats Shame on them. 866-55-PRESS for not standing up. So I say this is a time for Democrats to stand tall on Obamacare and not run away from it. Agree? Disagree? Let's talk about it. 866-55-PRESS this Monday morning on the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, 39 Democrats say President Obama That's not good enough. We're afraid that being known as a supporter of Obamacare could hurt us in 2014, so we're going to vote with John Boehner. We're going to vote with Eric Cantor. We're going to vote with Paul Ryan. We're going to vote with Michelle Bachmann and all those Republicans instead of with President Obama. What's going on here? Charlotte in South Collins, Illinois, on the great WCPT out of Chicago. Hi, Charlotte.
Hi, Bill.
Hi, what's going on? What do you think?
I agree with you. The Democrats need to learn how to stand together.
And stand up, right? And stand tall. Yeah.
They need to grow a backbone.
You got it, Charlotte. I didn't see much backbone on Friday among those Democrats. Let's jump out to Albuquerque. Thanks, Charlotte, for the call. Albuquerque, New Mexico, on 1350 AM. Hello, Carol.
Hi. You know, you always question why Obama didn't go for single payer. This is the reason. You could not get it through the House. You could not get it through the Senate. They are such cowards on the Democratic side about doing anything for the nation that doesn't have something to do for them.
Yeah, well, you know, the whole single-payer thing, I still wish Obama had at least let it be up for debate, but he didn't. But the Democrats, here's what gets me, Carol, is Democrats voted for the Affordable Care Act. Republicans didn't. They saw that it was still not single-payer, but it was better than anything we've had in our history, and certainly a hell of a lot better than the status quo, which just left the insurance companies in charge. And now that we've got it, they ought to be out there working with President Obama to make it work and to make it better. Instead, you know, suddenly they're putting their tail between their head between their legs and running for cover. Come on, stand up, huh? Grow a pair.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
the early 20th century, the war to end all wars didn't end war at all. It stoked the fires of change. A traumatized world was ripe for change. The world was ready for modernism. Modernists wanted to forget history, or at least reinterpret it. More than just a style, modernism applied to virtually all forms of creative expression. Innovative artists like Picasso, Escher, Dali, they all started looking at their world differently. Other artists tried painting light itself. These were the Impressionists. Surrealists went a bit further. We had entered the age of the isms: cubism, symbolism, futurism, constructivism. All these new modern ways of looking at the world blew people away. When it came to architecture, modernists were intrigued by emerging technology. Concrete, glass and steel featured heavily in their buildings. Modernists believed that they could design a better society. Ornamental indulgence was considered a frivolous waste of effort. They thought function should always dictate form, and that mankind's intelligence, creativity and capability for radical thinking should be celebrated. Take the Russian inventor Georgy Krutikov. He suggested an idea for a city held aloft by electrical currents. This at a time when there was barely enough wattage to keep the lights on. Not everything they designed was a resounding success. But you could argue modernism was the single most influential movement of the 20th century. From house music to housewares, tables and chairs to graphic design, all have been created by the aesthetics and ideas of modernism.
And again, one more call here on about those Democrats who turned their back on President Obama, said we'd rather stand up with John Boehner instead and defund, derail, kill Obamacare. What do these guys believe in? Whose side are they on? And again, overall, yeah, rocky start, but what big venture, government or in the private sector, hasn't begun with a rocky start? I'm not defending it. It shouldn't have happened, but it did. But they're going to fix it. So why are Democrats running away from it already? Here is Stephen down in Gainesville, Tennessee. Hey, Stephen, what do you say? Good morning.
Hey, Bill. Good to talk to you again. It's Kingsport, Tennessee.
Kingsport. Sorry about that. All right, we got it wrong. Tell me what you think about this.
I think Democrats are running. They're like turtles. You know, if they don't stick their head out, they never get anywhere. They're scared to death. They're going to be primaried. And what is there to primary them? The Tea Party is gone. It's a wash. There's no more Tea Party, in my opinion.
Yeah, and these are, by the way, Stephen, just so you know, these are Democrats, right? So they're not going to be primaried by Tea Party people. They don't have to worry about that.
No, they're going to be primaried by other Democrats, which are going to, what I would call in the South here, the yellow dogs, the ones that are ultra conservative. The people down here vote for them because they got good hair, good teeth, and you know, it's people down here are stupid. You know, there's no fix for it. But my point is, when Democrats are scared, they lose.
Yep, absolutely, Steve. I couldn't agree more. And you know, I want to see these Democrats stand up and say, look, okay, yeah, All right, so there's some problems with the website. We'll fix that. But this is a good program, folks. And by the way, I was looking down, and you ought to do this. Go online, look at the list of the Democrats, the 39 Democrats, and look at how many people in their districts do not have health insurance. Huge numbers. These Democrats represent a lot of them poor districts where people have never been able to afford health insurance. The very people who are going to be helped by the Affordable Care Act, because now they will, thanks to a federal subsidy for a lot of them, be able to get health insurance for themselves and their families. And the damn Democrats are voting against the program. So what do they want to do? They want to throw those people back on the mercies of the insurance companies. Because remember, the alternative, the Affordable Care Act, with all of its problems, the alternative is the status quo. No, not the status. The alternative, worse than that, is to go back 3 years to when insurance companies ruled the world and could deny selling health insurance to anybody because of a pre-existing condition, and could drop you in a second if you had a serious illness and they think you were costing them too much money. Want to go back to that? Fine. That's what that basically is what these Democrats are saying. So I appreciate the call, Stephen. Okay, we'll take, all right, one more before we move. Tony. Tony's calling from Henderson, North Carolina. Hey, Tony, good to have you with us.
How you doing?
Hey, all right. What's going on?
I can hope my Senator Kay Hagan from North Carolina. No, they're doing a lot of ads against her here in North Carolina, but I see she do not come on your show like yours and other liberal talk shows. And I hope y'all call her out and find out where she stands on the health care law. Because, you got a new governor of Virginia, might do one in his state, and ain't us here in North Carolina, we're going to be tasked with paying Virginia health care law. So I think we need one in our own state. I think Kay Hagan needs to come out and really put out there where she stands on this.
You know what? Good point, Tony. Good point. Yeah, we should get a new governor for North Carolina. God knows you need one, and it's too bad for the people of North Carolina that your governor's not going along with the expansion of Medicaid in the state, which is part of the Affordable Care Act. I don't know where Kay Hagan is, but we'll find out. We'll find out. Good point. Tony, appreciate the call. Hey, one other thing here. Don't forget, you can call anytime during the show on any topic, and we appreciate hearing from you at 866-55-PRESS. So MSNBC over the weekend made a big move in their programming. What was it? It was only, a month ago, maybe, that they gave Alec Baldwin a show?
It wasn't that long ago. Yeah, a month or two,
I mean,
maybe.
He's had maybe 2 or 3 shows, I think, at the most. It's one night a week, and they gave him a 1-hour show. And we said at the time, this is a big mistake. It's a big mistake for a couple of reasons. Number one, you can't, if you have a 1-hour a week show, one night a week, you're not going to get any audience. Nobody's going to watch it. Number two, giving Alec Baldwin a show was a dangerous move because this guy is like out of control. How many times has he got in trouble? He's got a temper. He lashes out at reporters. He even lashes out at his own daughter, right? He lost his show, right, because of one particular 30 Rock. Wasn't it the show that he got canceled from? No. Didn't he? Am I confusing with someone else?
I think you may be confusing with someone else, but he has a history of being a jerk to people and saying things that he really should not say. And he's a history of
getting in trouble, having to apologize and saying stuff on Twitter and everything. So he's walking out of his house in Manhattan the other day. And look, you're a celebrity. This is something you got to deal with. There are paparazzis around all the time, or reporters around. They want to get a picture. He's walking out of his apartment building with his wife and his kid. And there are some reporters standing there, and I'm not sure exactly what slur he used, but I could think of a few of them. And he called one of the reporters standing there a gay slur, and it was picked up on camera. And
it's not the first time that he's had a homophobic slur aimed at someone. I'm sorry, man.
This is a guy, by the way, who supports same-sex marriage, supports marriage equality, talks about how gay-friendly he is, and yet when he gets angry, he calls people. I mean, he did.
Are you trying to figure out what you can and can't say? Because I can tell you, I don't think he can actually. I don't think you can say what he called the guy.
Okay, all right.
I mean, he called them the probably the best known gay slur, but the way he described him,
he had. I'm just no. This is in the New York Times.
Okay,
so I think I can say this. If I can read it in the New York Times, I can say it. No, he called a male reporter last summer, not this week. Last summer, he got in trouble because he called a male reporter a toxic little queen.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So this is a pattern of his. But what gets us? So here's this guy who prides himself on being gay friendly, but when he lashes out with anti-gay slurs, and he did so again over the weekend. So MSNBC has suspended him now. There was no show Friday night for him, and they don't know whether his show will be back on the air or not. Having worked at MSNBC and knowing the leadership of MSNBC, Phil Griffin, whom I consider a friend, I would say, Phil, don't put this guy back on the air. This is as big a mistake for MSNBC as hiring Michael Savage way back when Pat Buchanan and I were still at MSNBC. We warned against, both Pat and I warned MSNBC not to do it at the time, and it didn't. It took about 6 months for Michael Savage to blow himself up. It took less time for Alec Baldwin to do so. Big mistake hiring him. He doesn't have a show right now. He's been suspended. Fire him. Fire him before MSNBC. He does not belong, particularly on MSNBC. I don't think he belongs anywhere on television. When we come back, we're going to jump over to the National Journal and the Hotline. Talk to the executive editor, Steve Shepard, about news of the day. Stay with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
13 minutes before the top of the hour. The top of the next hour, we're going to jump up to Toronto to hear the latest about colorful, to say the least, Mayor Rob Ford. Right now, we've told you many times one of the best ways to keep up to date on what's happening, not just here in our nation's capital, but in the field of politics all around the country, is the National Journal and the National Journal Hotline in particular. Hotline Executive Editor Steve Shepard joining us on our newsline this morning. Hello, Steve. Good morning. Good morning.
Morning, Bill.
So on the political front, it's interesting to me. About a month ago, Democrats were saying, "Oh man, Republicans really stepped in it when they shut down the government. Man, that's going to cost them the House in 2014, right?" And now, a month later, Democrats are saying, "Oh my, we could really lose even more seats over Obamacare." So now Democrats are the ones who are running scared. 39 Democrats voting for that Fred Upton bill on Friday. What's this tell you, Steve?
Well, first of all, the 39 could have been a lot worse, but it tells me that...
right, but it's not good.
Yeah, it tells me that Democrats have certainly been reading the polling. Look, they had, right before the government shutdown, all that was happening, they had a 9-point lead in a generic ballot poll from Quinnipiac, and a lead that was mirrored in other polls at the time. Now, Quinnipiac comes out last week, just 2 days before the House vote, and says that lead has totally evaporated. And given this, the structural advantages Republicans enjoy when it comes to the way Americans are clustered together and the way the lines are drawn, a tied race on the generic ballot, which is what the new Quinnipiac poll showed last week, that really points to the possibility of even Republican gains next year. And I think a lot of Democrats, particularly those in battleground districts, see health care now as big a liability for them as the shutdown was for Republicans a month ago.
I just wonder if, these are probably, I haven't had a chance to do that research, but I imagine these Democrats, for the most part, voted for the Affordable Care Act, those who were here 3 years ago, right? So they think they can really kind of almost fool their constituents by having voted for it, now vote for this Upton bill, which isn't going to go anywhere anyhow?
Well, I think the fact that it isn't going to go anywhere was one of the things that gave them cover to vote for it. Look, 8 of the 9 Democrats who represent districts that Mitt Romney won, and I think this also underscores the point, there are only 9 Democrats who represent districts Mitt Romney won last year. 8 of the 9 voted for the Upton bill. You're looking at of the Democrats who run in competitive districts, so districts in which Obama got 52% or less, the majority voted for the bill. I don't know that they're trying to fool their constituents as much as they're just trying to give themselves a little bit of cover to say, we voted for the bill and we realize the rollout has been bad, but we're trying to fix it. And the question is whether or not that's going to work.
And I guess also... I don't think it's a reason for panic for the White House, but it just underscores the fact that the White House has got to get this, got to get it fixed, right? I mean, they've got to have this thing fixed by the end of the month, and they've got to work out with the state insurance commissioner some way to deal with these people who have existing plans.
That's exactly right. We said last month that the shutdown was a huge liability for Republicans, and it was, but the page was turned. The government reopened, the debt ceiling was averted, and now there's a new issue that's come to the fore. And if the Obama administration can fix the website and deal with the folks who are upset that they've had their individually purchased plans canceled, then perhaps they can turn the page. But if it drags on and the website doesn't work and we reach these deadlines to enroll and people can't enroll and people have their plans canceled and are paying higher premiums and that story drags on into early next year, then it's going to be an even bigger problem.
Right. So we still don't know. Democrats will either be running on it or running from it. I tend to think they'll get it fixed and they'll be running on it, but we'll see. I want to ask you about something on the 2016 front, although I've tried not to speculate too much about 2016. I prefer to focus on the 2014 midterms. But, with all this talk about Hillary Clinton, almost a coronation, and with all this talk about Elizabeth Warren being on the term to Hillary Clinton, and all this talk on the other side about Chris Christie, Martin O'Malley from Maryland, I think, thought, hey, I better get my name out there so I can get a little buzz going too. And he released this 3-minute video over the weekend. Here's just a little, maybe 30 seconds of it.
He transformed a few other things, allowing two people who happen to be the same sex to join in the same union everyone else can, and giving new Americans a chance to dream the same dreams as every American by giving them the opportunity for a college education. And while he was cutting statewide pollution, crime, and illegal guns, he was cutting the cost of statewide government. Because sometimes you need to prune in the present to foster growth in the future. Way back when, Martin O'Malley forged a belief while walking the streets of Baltimore. And a belief that changed a city, changed a state, and changed more than a few lives along the way.
So Steve, Martin O'Malley is saying, hey, how about me, right?
Well, the web videos and all, he addressed the New Hampshire Democratic Party Jefferson-Jackson dinner on Saturday night, gave a very aggressive speech.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Gave a very aggressive speech.
Uh-huh.
It was the state's largest political event of the year, and he was the keynote address. In addition to that, while he was in New Hampshire this weekend, he met with a number of state senators, Democratic state senators. He also met with the heads of the state firefighters and teachers union. So you talk about the web video and the speech are sort of the public side of that, but then there's the invisible primary, and O'Malley's doing what he needs to there. Look, he's out of a job at the end of next year, and if Clinton doesn't run, then the Democratic nomination is pretty wide open.
Absolutely. There's every reason, I believe, that he ought to be out there. First of all, I think he's done a good job in Maryland. He's a good campaigner, right? He's young, he's attractive, he's articulate. And you're right. You never know what's going to happen, right? You can't sit back and say, oh, well, Hillary's going to run, so she's got it, right?
Definitely. She's not going to make a decision probably to early 2015, and so he might as well check all the boxes in the meanwhile.
Absolutely. Good for Martin O'Malley. And good for you, Steve, for being with us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bill.
NationalJournal.com. It's the Hotline. Steve Shepard.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I wish I was in school.
If only I had a math test today. Or a book report to give.
I wish I was in school.
I'll stay after class. I'll clean the chalkboard.
I'll do extra homework. I'll skip recess.
I wish I was in school.
I wish I was in school.
I really wish I was in school.
School ends, but free lunches for your kids don't have to. Find your local food bank at feedingamerica.org/summer meals for help. Together, we're feeding America.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, so in addition to talking Rob Ford in Toronto, we'll be visited by Elise Viebeck from The Hill about what's happening in the Congress this week, all in the next hour. Meanwhile, Liz Cheney, the one who moved from Virginia to Wyoming to run for Senate out there, carpetbagger, yesterday on Fox News, threw her sister under the bus. Here, Chris Wallace talking about her sister Mary on same-sex marriage.
Your sister Mary, who is married to a woman, put out this post. She said, for the record, I love my sister, you, but she is dead wrong on the issue of marriage.
Yeah, and I love Mary very much. I love her family very much. This is just an issue on which we disagree.
Can you believe it? I mean, her political ego, right, is such that she would turn her back on her own sister. A sister she always supported in the past. Her father supported, her mother supported. But no, Liz Cheney says, my political career is more important than my blood sister.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey, good morning, everybody. What do you say? It's Monday morning, November 18th. So good to see you today. Hope you had a great weekend and are ready to jump into another busy week here in our nation's capital. This is the Bill Press Show. We'll tell you what's going on, not only here in our nation's capital, around the country, around the globe. And open up the phones, open up the websites, and take your comments. Look forward to hearing from you by phone at 866-55-PRESS. I want to see your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Yes, President Obama may have apologized and come up with his fix for those people who already have health insurance plans that they like and want to keep. He did that on Thursday, but it didn't do much good on Friday. 39 Democrats in the House defected and joined House Republicans in approving the Fred Upton bill by a vote of 251 to 167. That bill, which would in effect delay Obamacare for an entire year. So obviously, and meanwhile, the Senate, with the help of some Democrats, is considering similar legislation. So, pardon me, President Obama clearly still has his hands full. In other news, MSNBC has suspended Alec Baldwin and temporarily put his show on the shelf because he called a reporter a gay slur. They should never have given Alec Baldwin a show in the first place. Of course, it's like back when they hired Michael Savage. They should have known better. God punished Washington's football team for not changing the name, getting crushed yesterday by the Eagles, of course. And finally, Mount Etna decided to erupt just when I'm about to leave for Sicily on vacation. We'll tell you all about it right here on The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act. Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
Your TV and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
39 Democrats say on Affordable Care Act, we trust John Boehner over Barack Obama. Can you believe it? Cowards. Hey, good morning, everybody. It is Monday, November 18. What do you say? The Bill Press Show here on your local progressive talk radio station this Monday morning. Good to have you with us. Hope the weekend brought you a chance to relax and recharge those batteries and get ready to jump into another week full of good stuff. Not good stuff, maybe. Interesting stuff, we should say, going on here in our nation's capital, around the country, around the globe, wherever it's happening. We're here to tell you all about it and to let you tell us what it means to you. We'll give you the news. You give us your reaction on the phone at 866-55-PRESS, on Twitter at BP Show, and on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. Team Press in place this morning. Peter Ogburn.
Hey. Happy Monday.
Alicia Cruz, ready to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS again. And in addition to there with you on the radio, we are also with you on Free Speech TV and on our video stream at TawkrTV. That's youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKR, TawkrTV. And Cyprian Bowling is keeping us looking good on the video cam, our videographer. Good morning, Cyprian. Everybody in place. Some good football. I saw part of the Washington teams, unnamed team.
That's right, yeah. We have
yesterday.
an update on that coming up soon.
Giants winning their 4th game in a row, right?
Yeah.
Kansas, the Chiefs, losing their 1st game.
Oh, yeah, of the season.
And then on the college football front,
Holy cow.
The big game was Georgia-Auburn.
Big game.
Big game. It was the very last play, so Peter, take it from there.
Auburn is losing.
Yeah.
And they have to score a touchdown here. So they throw the ball. It's about a 50-yard play. Georgia jumps up, and it looks like they've intercepted the ball. But he just sort of tipped it, and the Auburn receiver, Ricardo Lewis,
grabs it,
just sort of looks around, and it just happens to land right in front of him. And the Georgia receivers are already behind him because they tried to catch the ball.
Yeah.
Touchdown. Game over.
And he runs right in, scores a touchdown, so Auburn wins. Yeah. And
it's incredible.
The Auburn sportscasters, obviously, could not believe what was happening. They figured, it's all over. And then suddenly, reverse fortune.
Listen for the moment when they say, and it's tipped by the Georgia defender, which they think the game is over.
Here's your ball game. Nick Marshall stands in, steps up. He's going to throw downfield, just a home run ball, and it is tipped off. And Lewis caught it on the deflection. Lewis is going to score. Lewis is going to score. Lewis is going to score. Touchdown, Auburn. Touchdown, Auburn. A miracle in Jordan Hare.
A miracle. Yeah.
It was
insane.
insane.
You could just say, well, it's all over. That's the ball game. Yeah, tip by Oh, my God. All right. So good to have you with us today. At any rate, we've got good friends coming in from some of our favorite publications around here, from Politico, from Huffington Post, from The Hill. And we'll start off this hour by jumping back up to Toronto, the latest on Rob Ford. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Let's keep it at the sports desk for now. The Washington football team looked like they were facing certain defeat, 24-0 going into the fourth quarter, and then they mounted an improbable comeback to make it 24-16.
Yeah,
with a wonderful chance at least tying the game. They just needed a touchdown in the 2-point conversion. However, on 3rd down, Robert Griffin III aims for the end zone and throws a wild pass, which was intercepted. Here's how it sounded on WYSP in Philadelphia.
He's back. He's looking. He's being chased. He throws it high in the air, and it is intercepted! Intercepted 8 yards deep! Coming up with it is Brandon Boykin, and that's the game!
That's the game, and that is almost certainly the season for the Washington football team.
Yeah, I mean, the season's not over, you mean, but...
No, it's not over, but they're not going to go to the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, they're in trouble now. Let's just call this a case of temporary insanity. A new study from the frontiers of psychology shows that a large majority of people who become vegetarians go back to eating meat within 1 year. The study took a look at people, particularly who read Michael Pollan's book, The Omnivore's Dilemma, which takes a look at plant-based diets and why readers might want to examine their meat intake. But after making those dietary changes and swearing off meat, it always took less than a year for them to begin munching on meat again. So if you're going to give it up for an ideological reason like reading a book, it doesn't stick.
I wonder, has Bill Clinton gone back to eating meat yet?
It actually took for him. I mean, I
think so.
Allegedly still a vegetarian.
Yeah.
And maybe Bernie Madoff should be worried. In Vietnam, a former banker was found guilty of embezzling $25 million. He did this with the help of a business associate, and together they falsified financial leasing contracts to swindle $25 million. Well, Vietnam is one of the most corrupt nations in the world, and they have decided they're going to do something about it. Starting with these two swindlers, the men have been sentenced to death by lethal injection for embezzlement. It's a new thing that they're trying to clean up corruption in Vietnam, so be careful, I guess.
Wow. You know, if they started that on Wall Street and went through Wall Street and got all the people responsible for the crash of 2008 with that kind of punishment, yeah, it'd be a busy execution chamber for sure. A little bit later in this hour, we're going to be talking about what here in Washington, D.C. now, and the battle between, not the battle so much as the conflict between the White House and more Democrats in Congress, in the House and in the Senate, who are still not satisfied with the president's apology and the temporary fix that he put on the Affordable Care Act, those people who have health insurance and a health insurance plan already and want to keep it. We'll get into that a little bit later in this hour. But we wanted to start off at the top of the hour here. Certainly the most colorful political story in North America at the time is not here in the United States. It's up in Toronto, Canada, with the latest with Mayor Rob Ford. Ivor Tossell is a Toronto journalist. Has been following the story. He's also author of the book, The Gift of Ford. Ivor, good to have you with us this morning.
Hi there.
Hi. Is it Ivor or Ivor? I'm sorry.
It's Ivor.
It's Ivor. There you go. Poor Rob Ford. I'm starting to feel sorry for him, but after that colossally embarrassing press conference last week, what has happened to the mayor? Does he have any powers left?
Well, you know, we've got a system here in Toronto where we call it a weak mayor system, where he didn't actually have a whole lot of power to start with. His power was mostly based on his ability to influence people and to kind of use the moral authority he had as mayor to get his agenda through. And truth be told, even before this latest scandal has erupted, he hasn't been so good at playing nicely with others on council for a number of years. So in a way, it's a very symbolic move that's happening today.
Is he? If you mentioned a weak mayor, does that mean is he elected as mayor, or is it by the populace, or is it the city council that chooses him as mayor?
He is elected directly as mayor, but practically, his powers are basically one vote on a city council of 45 members. And he does have certain leverages in terms of being able to select the heads of the committees that kind of make up the city council's mechanisms. And so he's got a degree of control over the agenda. He can get things onto the agenda, and he can kind of influence some key votes. But for the most part, the leadership structure in the city is such that the mayor has to work by consensus and leadership, and that's not really been his forte.
So those are the powers, right, that the city council wants to take away from him, to appoint people or appoint the deputy mayor or appoint the heads of these committees, correct?
Actually, as a matter of fact, I think they've already removed those powers in a vote on Friday. Right now, they're basically removing as many powers as they can under the legal authority that they have at that level of government, and that means stripping him of his budget powers, reducing the kind of enhanced number of staff that he has to support him, basically taking him down to a mayor in name only.
What does the public think of Rob Ford? I saw when the story first broke, and he has admitted that he smoked crack-cocaine, that his popularity actually went up. Is that still the case?
Well, that was a very widely reported story, that the popularity went up. I'm not sure if it's actually the case. That was based on one single poll, and it looked like that was just kind of a tick, that tracking poll had actually ticked down the week before, and it just kind of ticked back up to its normal level. So I'm not sure his popularity actually went up. I've been out talking to people, and there's a lot of concern, a lot of worry on the streets here. For sure, he does have some supporters still. But people are, I think people are kind of heartbroken, actually. It's kind of a tragic story they see unfolding in front of them, and certainly opposition has solidified against him.
Well, especially, again, after that news conference and all the lewd, language and everything last week. I mean, it looks like a guy who's really got some serious issues, right? And maybe needs some professional help. Is he getting it?
You know what? He said on Fox News, of all places, yesterday that he was getting quote-unquote professional help. We don't know what that means. It certainly doesn't mean stepping away and going to rehab. As far as I can tell, the only professional help he's getting is from professional journalists, putting his name up around the world.
Right. Or maybe some political, he must have somebody, well, maybe not, advising him, I was going to say, on what his moves are, but
you know what? Actually, I don't actually believe that's the case anymore.
Oh, really?
Certainly at the outset of his mayoralty, he had some very high caliber support and political help that got him elected in the first place. That in the intervening years, that support has either fallen away, people have resigned, people have been fired.
Mm-hmm.
As far as we can tell at this stage in the game, this is a guy who's basically flying solo with him and his brother,
wow,
who's also doing the media rounds. So
right.
we're not seeing.
And his brother, who's on the city council, and one of the votes I saw was for like 41-2, right? He and his brother.
Exactly.
Voting this. But I'll tell you one thing, it's been a long time, probably never before, has a mayor of Toronto been featured and opened the show on Saturday Night Live, as happened Saturday, this past weekend. I just want to play a quick clip of the very end of it, where Rob Ford does find, finally, one show that believes everything he says. Here we go.
Mayor Rob Ford, patriot, hero, role model. Tonight, he'll tell a side of the story you have to hear to believe. So, Mayor Ford, once and for all, what is the truth?
I have never done crack.
I believe you.
I've also never smoked pot.
I believe you.
And I've never had alcohol?
Mayor Ford, I believe you.
There it is. So Saturday Night Live taking a shot at Rob Ford and at Lyra Logan at the same time there, Ivor. Tell us about The Gift of Ford. Did you write this book since this is a book, right?
Yes, it was.
Your book.
It was an ebook published through Random House. And,
how long ago?
It came out a year ago, and believe it or not, there was actually...
Boy, you were ahead of your time.
Well, you know what? There was actually a whole pile of scandal even before there was even any public intimation of crack cocaine. Even by a year ago, the man had been removed from office for conflict of interest charges before being reinstated on appeal.
Oh, my God. So this is a gift that keeps on giving, obviously, for you, right?
Well, I wish we had happier things to write about in a way. But
are you going to write add a chapter, a sequel, or whatever?
The material is there, and it has certainly been discussed.
'Tis the season for regifting.
That's right. Indeed, The Gift of Ford. So it's available on online, Amazon, and all the other places where
iTunes and Google, and the whole lot.
All right, we got it. Hey, Ivor, thanks so much for joining us again this morning. Always good to talk
appreciate
to you.
it.
All right. Ivor Tossell, writing for the writes columns for the Toronto Globe and Mail, and author of this book. How about that? Wrote a year ago. The Gift of Ford. I love it.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww. You should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. you could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Oh, yeah. Here we go at 25 minutes after the hour now here on The Bill Press Show. In the next half hour from the Hill, Elise Viebeck is going to be here. She covers Congress for the Hill newspaper, which I write a weekly column for every Tuesday. So feel very much part of that Hill family. And still feel very much part of San Francisco, my favorite city in this country, at any rate. For sure, by a long shot, as much as I love Washington, D.C., love New York and Philadelphia and other great cities where I've lived or worked. San Francisco is where I started a new life, and in California. Worked in campaigns there, ran campaigns there, taught high school there, met Carol, got married there, had our first son there. And it's a wonderful city with a city that can kind of pull together the way no other city in the country can, as it did Friday, pulling together for a little 5-year-old kid, Miles Scott, who has been suffering from leukemia since he was 18 months old. And through the Make-A-Wish Foundation, they were able to arrange for the entire city to make Friday Bat Kid Day in San Francisco. He dressed up like Batman, and they had all these things set up where he could go driven around in a black Lamborghini with his black outfit on, and crowds everywhere he went cheering him on. And he saved Gotham in the spirit of Batman. Of course, he ended up at City Hall, where Mayor Ed Lee gave him the keys to the city.
On behalf of San Francisco and Gotham City, I want to thank the Bat Kid for saving our city.
And the crowd, huge crowd there, and everywhere he went, there were people lining the streets with Batman outfits on.
It was so well coordinated.
Yeah.
You know, that no other city could do that and then expect the crowd to show up and behave and participate in that kind of way.
And actually get into it, you know.
Right, way into it.
Yeah. And they, so they published in the Chronicle the places where they were going to show up and everything. Ed Lee telling Miles, this is a day that you are always going to remember, kiddo.
While we wish we can erase the pain that you and your family have experienced, we hope this is the day of magic and that you'll remember this forever. Bat Kid forever in San Francisco.
Don't you love the Bat Kid forever?
By the way, over the weekend, Christian Bale, the guy who played the most recent Batman, and Ben Affleck, who is going to be playing the next version of Batman, both came out and said, this is the best version of Batman ever. There's always a debate about who played Batman the best.
Yeah.
You know, Michael Keaton or Val Kilmer or George Clooney. They say Bat Kid, the best Batman ever.
And he even got a shout out from the man who really saved Gotham.
Way to go, Miles. Way to save Gotham.
Barack Obama weighing in for Miles Scott. What a great moment, and good for him. And the Make-A-Wish Foundation does wonderful, wonderful work, and this is one of the best things I think they've ever done. But again, they couldn't have pulled it off anywhere but in the great city of San Francisco.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine.
Virginia Tech.
Tucson.
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Oak Creek.
Newtown.
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 How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough. Enough. Enough.
Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage. But after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go on a Monday morning, November 18, The Bill Press Show. Peter, we haven't yet sent our thoughts and good wishes out to all of our good friends in the Chicago area listening on WCPT with those tornadoes that swept through there yesterday. I saw the video of the people. It's at the they call it Memorial Field now, or still Soldier Field in Chicago, where they had to evacuate the stands because of the
taking them to shelter areas around the stadium.
Right.
There's a lot of controversy about whether or not they should even allow that game to happen, because as it was getting going, the weather was looking really shaky. But
yeah. And we have some sound there from a couple of residents from Washington, Illinois, and their experience when they saw this storm coming, and getting into shelter.
We saw it coming through this way, like the angle towards our house. The whole shed's gone.
So when I seen it coming, we run to the basement, and it was gone within 3 or 4 minutes. And just you can see what it's done here, just everything, demolished everything.
Yeah, just a lot of destruction out there. So anyway, we're thinking of you and hope that you didn't suffer any damage. If you did, that you're able to get back on your feet soon. Somebody said it's not tornado season. I think year-round is tornado season these days, thanks to climate change and everything else. Meanwhile, here in our nation's capital, the White House has got to be thinking what's going on with health care. The president apologized on Thursday, thinking that that's enough to give Democrats cover so they wouldn't consider voting for the Fred Upton bill on Friday, and yet 39 Democrats ended up doing so. Elise Viebeck covers the Hill, particularly health care for The Hill, the great newspaper that covers goings on here in our nation's capital. She joins us in studio this morning. Hi, Elise. Nice to see
Bill.
you.
Thanks for having me.
So what were these 39 Democrats thinking? I guess President Obama's apology was not enough for them, right?
No, not enough for them. And I'm sure Bill Clinton's goading a couple of days earlier certainly helped the White House come out with its announcement of its new policy. But no, these Democrats are worried about GOP campaign ads. And we saw many quotes in the headlines over the weekend with GOP campaign officials saying that they're going to use this to really hammer vulnerable Democratic candidates in the midterm cycle. And I think that's the chief worry. I think it's possible that many of those Democrats do ultimately support what the president's doing, but they're concerned about an attack ad that'll say, hey, but they didn't vote for this Upton bill. And it's possible that a swing voter would see that as a disinclination to really fix the problem.
Well, these Democrats, again, we're talking Democrats, right? This is 2013.
Right.
They may or may not have a challenge in a primary.
That's right.
But they won't stand up against a Republican until a year from now.
Right.
So So a year from, they're worried about something that might happen a year from now.
They are.
Isn't it likely that whatever problems exist with with Obamacare will be fixed well before a year from now?
I think that is likely. I do. But we've heard it from Democratic campaign officials that this has been their number one concern since the spring. So that would be, more than a year. And I think it really depends on how quickly the White House can fix this website, which for me is the number one issue as a reporter, looking at how quickly are they doing that. Obviously, the deadline is November 30th. And if they don't hit that, I think it's going to be very difficult because people are going to need to log on and sign up for plans by December 15th in order to get coverage that kicks in on January 1. That's a 2-week window. It's not very much. But yeah, it's true. These Democrats, they are not going to face anyone for another year. And so it's possible that all of the problems will be fixed by then, but I think they really want to give themselves as much cover as possible.
What happens to this Fred Upton bill? In fact, tell us a little bit about the Upton bill. So President Obama said, despite what I said before, that's no longer operative. Now, if you have one of these substandard existing plans, which are, for the most part, substandard plans, but you like it and you want to keep it, you can, right?
Sort of.
What's the difference between that and the Upton bill?
Right. So President Obama is allowing insurance companies to continue offering some of these canceled plans if they want to, for one more year to the people who previously had them. So that's a lot of conditions there. And I think the important thing for listeners is that they're not allowing people to be entitled to the plan that they previously had. They're saying if the insurance companies want to and decide to, they're going to come back and offer it.
Yeah.
The Upton plan would do something similar, except it would allow the insurance companies to sell these canceled plans to everyone, not just the people who previously had them.
So they could continue to offer crappy plans, right?
Right.
Substandard
These plans that do not meet the new benefit requirements under the Affordable Care Act, which require preventive care and all kinds of benefits in order to make sure that you're not suddenly caught going to the hospital without insurance coverage on your plan.
Right.
So it really depends.
Which to me doesn't make any sense. I mean, if you're going to reform healthcare, you reform healthcare. You don't say, well, we're going to have two parallel tracks here, right? Good plans and bad plans, and you can choose whether you buy a good one or a bad one. No, we don't sell the bad ones anymore. I mean, I would think that would be the logic of it.
I mean, this was a huge about-face for the White House, and you see it because many liberal insurance commissioners across the country are coming out and saying, we respect President Obama, we understand what he's trying to do, but we're not going to go along with it because they believe that this would undermine the marketplaces and the new consumer protections that the Affordable Care Act is trying to create. And so it's very interesting. Right now, a lot of these insurance officials across the states are stuck between a rock and a hard place, particularly if they're Democrats, because they've got the leader of their party saying, hey, we are going to allow these two tracks to continue for 1 year. Just, in order to allow some people to keep their plans. It's unclear how many people will actually be able to keep their plans because it's all up to the insurance companies now, and they don't want to continue offering these plans. But yeah, we'll see across this week, I think, how many people agree to move forward with this because there are many who already aren't. The Washington State's insurance commissioner, for example, has already said, I respect President Obama, but I'm not going to do this because I respect too much the new structure created by the Affordable Care Act. And I believe that following President Obama in this case would actually undermine that. Right. It's very interesting.
No, a lot of people don't understand that that the Affordable Care Act itself did not require insurance companies, the people who have existing insurance plans, if I have it right, to drop these plans, right? It's the state insurance commissioners that said, we're no longer going to allow these plans because they don't meet the standards of the act. Correct?
Well, many of these states had regulations that mimicked the Affordable Care Act, and that's kind of what's in play now.
Right.
And we also have to remember that this applies to the individual insurance market, which is much, much smaller than the employer-based ones. So this goes back to what President Obama meant when he made that promise, which I think was imprecisely rendered and really opened him up to a lot. But what he was saying is the vast majority of Americans are not going to see their plans canceled because they're on the employer-based market. And that's the bottom line. And that's what he was trying to give reassurance about.
I know.
But Here we are.
That way.
Yeah.
All right. So again, Elise Viebeck is with us from The Hill. It's thehill.com. Now, the Upton bill, 251 to 167, even with 39 Democrats, it's not going anywhere.
No, it's
right?
not.
Okay. But the bigger threat, it seems to me, for the White House is what might happen in the Senate.
Right.
And the Senate, there are also some Democrats in the Senate who are saying we need a legislative fix, correct?
That's
Are we
right.
going to see that in the Senate, do you think?
I don't know if we'll see a vote. Harry Reid has not indicated that he will hold a vote. So we'll have to watch over the next couple of weeks. I think we could see a vote if after November 30th, the website isn't working. And that plunges Democrats into a whole nother, set of anxieties. Then maybe we could see a vote on one of these Democratic plans. One of them is from Senator Mary Landrieu, Democrat from Louisiana, who we know is facing a tough reelection. And she wants to require insurance companies to continue offering plans to anyone who continues paying a premium in perpetuity.
Oh, forever.
Forever. And it's interesting. Some conservatives have come out and said this is actually a trap bill. And here's why. Because it's through an insurance mandate. That's how the conservatives frame it. They do not want to regulate the market in any way that would require these companies to do this. And so that's what they say is the problem with Mary Landrieu's bill, which is amassing Democratic support. We have to say, I believe it had more than 10 Democratic co-sponsors, people like Dianne Feinstein, and a few other vulnerable Democrats. I don't believe Feinstein's up for re-election. I would have to check. No, she's not. But it's very interesting. The other option in the Senate is one from Mark Udall, Democrat from Colorado, who says that we should require insurance companies to continue offering these plans, but only for 2 years, not in perpetuity, only for 2 years while we phase in the new reality that is the Affordable Care Act. Yeah.
Either way, right, there are some real problems with the launch of this of the health exchanges,
yes.
and in two, one, problems with the website, and two, the confusion over these existing plans, and we're trying to sort it out. And I think the big question is, and it's just leader, I almost called her speaker, Leader Pelosi said, no, Democrats are going to hang tough here. We're going to stand tall. Well, not all of them did. Should they have? 866-55-PRESS. Or is this a question of Democrats panicking prematurely? We'll be back with Elise Viebeck and your calls just a minute at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Racing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go, 13 minutes before the top of the hour here. In our third hour together, we'll be joined by reporters from Politico and Huffington Post right now. Congressional reporter Elise Viebeck from The Hill, thehill.com, is here in studio with us. Elise, good to have you back. What happens now, before we go to your calls at 866-55-PRESS? So what do we do? Just wait and see whether they get the website fixed? Wait and see whether Congress moves a bill? Wait and see whether across the states that are dealing with these existing plans, the insurance companies and the insurance commissioners can agree? Or what's next? What's next?
It is the waiting game, which to reporters like me who've been working, 12 to 7 or whatever for the last couple of weeks, are very happy to have a slower week. But no, it is a waiting game right now. Congress, I believe the Senate is unlikely to move one of these Landrieu or Udall bills unless there's another shoe that drops that makes Democrats even more nervous than they are now.
Okay.
And I believe that all focus now is on this November 30th deadline. Is the administration going to get this website fixed in time to allow people to sign up for plans that are going to begin on January 1st so they don't go a day without being uninsured?
And is the website getting any better?
It has gotten better, and certainly the administration is touting certain metrics that they're using. For example, Jeff Zients, this former White House budget director who was brought in to triage the website, was on a call with reporters the other day, and he said that the error rate on that website is now below 1%, which is a very good sign. However, going on yourself, it's easy to encounter errors on this website still. I was on just this weekend and was encountering errors. So it's difficult for the White House, I believe, because all of these anecdotes come out and begin to govern the reality. So even if many people are able to use the website, and that's what the administration is insisting, many people are getting through and enrolling right now, but the experience isn't perfect. And it's going to be those stories that begin to dominate the narrative.
We have had countless calls from viewers and listeners to the show who have navigated the website. They have health insurance now, which they never had before, and they're very happy with it.
That's right.
Why aren't we hearing those stories?
Well, Democratic strategists are upset at the White House because they believe that they ought to be touting those stories every single day, that there ought to be a cabinet official or President Obama himself appearing with someone who's had a success and talking about it and making journalists cover that, rather than merely all of the negative problems. Because certainly if the White House is doing it, people are covering it.
Mim is calling from Stony Brook, New York on iHeartRadio. Hi, Mim. Good morning.
Hi, Bill. One of the 39 is our representative. And we were shocked yesterday when we found out that he had voted for the Upton bill. He's had Tea Party challenges before. And he's always won. So I don't know what he accomplished except to make me mad at him and to make me feel like I don't want to give the Democratic Party money because I'd prefer targeting individual candidates. I don't want to support anybody who isn't going to stick up for the Affordable Care Act.
And who is your member of Congress?
Tim Bishop.
Ken Bishop. Yeah, I was just trying to pull up the list here. Tim Bishop.
Tim. Yep.
Right.
And I was shocked because he's been, this is a really blue district.
Yeah, sure enough, there he is. Now,
He's been good.
Here's what's interesting, Mim, about on this list, in your district, right, there are, in New York 1, there are 64,906 people without health insurance. So who does he think he's helping by voting for the Upton Act, right?
Exactly.
Not those people.
First of all, the act is never going to get signed into law, so it's an absolutely empty gesture.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, too, I'm mad at Bill Clinton. I don't know why he thinks he's still president.
Maybe it's that he knows he's not going to be president again, but there's another member of his family who might have a chance, who's shot at it. Mim, good to hear from you again. Thank you. So they've got to get the website fixed, right?
They do.
But the other thing is to expect insurance is not like buying a book on Amazon, buying insurance, right? No. And I mean, the idea to expect 36 million Americans to be computer savvy, number one, and computer savvy enough to buy insurance, health insurance, is a complicated matter. And to buy it online, that's a tall order, isn't it?
Oh, it's a very tall order. And the White House set expectations in a way that I'm not sure was entirely wise. They were pitching it to the public as equivalent to buying a flight on Travelocity.
You're right.
And it's just never going to be that way. And we know from trends in the past that people take weeks to consider their options when they purchase insurance. They like to be able to see the options from the beginning before they supply any personal information. And so we know that it was going to be difficult. We knew that all along. And I think the one silver bullet for the White House that could happen is that we know from past trends that people tend to purchase insurance right before deadlines. Mm-hmm. And so the December 15th deadline, for example, if they can get that website up and running, and this is the standard they set a lot of conditions, up and running for the vast majority of Americans, mostly smoothly, by that time, most people are going to come in a big wave and enroll by December 15th. That's what we're expecting.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still confident that despite the rocky start, they're going to get it fixed. People will enroll. The numbers will build up. And by 6 months from now, Democrats are going to be saying, didn't we do a great thing?
That's what they're hoping.
I know. Right now, the Democrats are afraid of their own shadow, I think, on this issue. Hey, Elise, it's really good having you in the studio. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, we'll see you again soon. Thanks for your good work. And I'll be back and tell you what the president's got on schedule for today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, folks, on this Monday morning, just like every other day, we've got a third hour coming up. Hate to lose you on Free Speech TV, but remember, in addition to listening to the show on your local progressive talk radio station, you can continue to watch the show by video stream. Go to youtube.com/TawkrTV. In the next hour, Laura Bassett from Huffington Post will join us to talk about this issue of sexual assault in the military. And Rebecca Sinderbrand from Politico here to talk about what's up at the White House. Stay with us. One more hour coming up.
In 1920s America, the Great Depression effectively erased consumer demand. Struggling manufacturers needed new ways to get people buying again. Innovative production processes like stamping and use of molds allowed them to use new materials for their designs. Products using vinyl, chrome, aluminium and plywood began appearing. American industrial designers began introducing streamlined, efficient shapes that shouted progress. Bel Geddes pioneered what we now refer to as utilitarian art. Things that had little reason to look sleek now all of a sudden did. At the 1939 World Fair featuring Bel Geddes' immensely popular Futurama exhibit, a new era of American industrial design proudly claimed to be building the world of tomorrow. Americans found great positivity in these futuristic forms. Yay. Things were looking up. American industrial designers realised that by making objects look great, people simply wanted them more. From cars to kitchen appliances, the most influential society on earth was spending money again. Mass consumption had arrived. Advertisers finally had lots to talk about. Personal taste could be expressed through the things you bought. Style became equally as important as function. Chair designers like Eames and Saarinen didn't just design seating, they created desirable lifestyles. People behind the products suddenly were stars. Everyone wanted to know who they were. Raymond Loewy was one of the shining lights of American industrial design. His face ended up on every coffee table in the nation. Toothpaste packaging promised whiter teeth. Washing powder packaging promised whiter whites. Who knew such simple household objects would shape the tastes and ambitions of an entire society? American industrial design improved America, functionally, culturally and intellectually, and exported it around the globe.
This is the Bill Press Show.
In the next hour, Rebecca Sinderbrand from Politico and Laura Bassett from Huffington Post, continuing our coverage of the big stories of the day here on this Monday, November 18. President Obama, a pretty low-key day today. He actually got some another round of golf in at Andrews Air Force Base. What's this, number 151?
151. You got it.
So today he's, kicking back at 10:15. He'll get the presidential daily briefing in the Oval Office. 11 o'clock, he'll be meeting with his senior advisors, and the only other meeting that he has publicly that announced, it's not a public meeting, is also in the Oval Office. He'll be meeting with Secretary of the Treasury Jack Lew. Jay Carney has called his press briefing today for 1 o'clock in the Brady Press Briefing Room, and I will be there and tell you all about it tomorrow. Stay tuned for hour number 3 of the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show. Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, President Obama says, hey, trust me, I've got this healthcare problem fixed. But 39 Democrats said, no, we don't think so. Big vote on Friday. Good morning, everybody. What do you say? We'll tell you more about that here in our third hour together this morning on this Monday, November 18th. So good to see you today. Thank you for joining us coast to coast on the Bill Press Show as we come to you live on your local progressive talk radio station. And this hour on TawkrTV as well. That's our video stream, easy to catch on your laptop or your iPad or your desktop. You go to youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKR TV. Look forward to hearing from you. We'll tell you what's going on. You tell us what it means to you, what you think about it all, and its impact on you and your family and your community. You can do so by phone at 866-55-PRESS. Give us your comments on Twitter at BP Show. That's our Twitter handle, at BP Show. Or on Facebook, facebook.com/BillPressShow. You know, so much going on, so much to talk about. We depend on the help of friends, and one of our good friends in studio with us this morning to start off this third hour. Rebecca Sinderbrand covers the White House, Deputy White House Editor for Politico, the great political website. Hello, Rebecca.
Hello.
Nice to see you again.
Thanks for having me back.
And you join our team here, Peter Ogburn.
Hey. With
Alicia Cruz on the phones, waiting to take your calls again at 866-55-PRESS. Cyprian Bolding, if we look good on the video stream, it's thanks to Cyprian and the video cams. He's got them going. Good morning, Cyprian. So interesting, Rebecca, on the political front, there's been a lot of talk recently, of course, about Hillary Clinton, the inevitable candidate, it seems, for 2016. A lot of talk now about Chris Christie on the Republican side. Particularly after New Republic did a cover story on Elizabeth Warren. People are saying, no, she's the alternative to Hillary. And another voice over the weekend said, hey, how about me? Governor Martin O'Malley from Maryland went up to New Hampshire, gave the talk at the big Democratic Jefferson Jackson Day dinner in New Hampshire. I think that's what they call it, the big annual dinner of the Democratic Party in New Hampshire. Met with some union leaders, met with Democratic leaders in New Hampshire, and released this video.
He transformed a few other things, allowing two people who happen to be the same sex to join in the same union everyone else can, and giving new Americans a chance to dream the same dreams as every American by giving them the opportunity for a college education. And while he was cutting statewide pollution, crime, and illegal guns, he was cutting the cost of statewide government. Because sometimes you need to prune in the present to foster growth in the future. Way back when, Martin O'Malley forged a belief while walking the streets of Baltimore. And a belief that changed a city, changed a state, and changed more than a few lives along the way.
You know, it sounds like one of those videos that you play at the convention just before the nominee walks out, right?
But you're not wrong when you say, what about me? There's this whole what about me tier of candidates who are kind of expected to be in the running. But, you know, the fact of the matter is it's still Hillary Clinton and everyone else. And so you have a lot of these candidates who've been looking with an eye to 2016 or kind of waiting in the wings and kind of almost effectively jumping up and down and waving their arms.
But I'd have to say, if she decides not to run, for example, or if something happened, God forbid, right?
Right.
Martin O'Malley would be, I think, somebody that people would look at seriously. And so he just wants to say, don't forget.
Certainly he thinks
so. Don't forget. You know, I'm also interested. And I'll be out of a job, too, a year from now.
I mean, you know, it's one of those things
and
you can say.
He's been a good mayor.
Sure.
A good governor,
sure.
I'm sorry. Yeah, and was a good mayor.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, you know, as you know, it takes more than that to break through. And so, you know, the question of, I think it's theoretical, to think about what a Democratic field looks like without a Hillary candidacy. That it's impossible to imagine right now.
He's got a lot going for him, I think. He's a very attractive candidate, and articulate. He's got a good record. And, you know, he's got an Irish rock band. Right?
That's right. He does play in an Irish rock band.
What
more
That's a qualifying factor in and of itself.
You got it. So Rebecca's here for the first half hour. Laura Bassett from Huffington Post will be joining us a little bit later. We'll get right into the news of the day. But first, the big headline,
the full court press.
Yes, indeed. Just a few other stories making news. This weekend, we might have seen the college football play of the year. The Auburn Tigers needed a miracle against the Georgia Bulldogs late in the fourth quarter as they were down. They needed a touchdown. They threw the ball. Georgia looked like they had grabbed it, but they tipped it up just high enough for Ricardo Lewis to catch it and score a touchdown. Here is what that call sounded like on the Auburn Sports Network.
Here's your ball game. Nick Marshall stands in, steps up. He's going to throw downfield, just a home run ball, and it is tipped off. And Lewis caught it on the deflection. Lewis is going to score. Lewis is going to score. Lewis is going to score. Touchdown Auburn. Touchdown Auburn. A miracle in Jordan Hare.
went from certain they had lost the game to this astounding turn of twist there.
Yeah,
it's just you could hear it in their voices.
Turn it around. This will set up a huge Iron Bowl, which is where the University of Alabama plays Auburn in 2 more weeks. The winner of that's going to go into the SEC championship game.
All right,
there you go. A big weekend for Gravity. The movie crossed the $500 million mark globally. That makes it one of the most popular science fiction flicks of all time. It is also the biggest box office hit for both Sandra Bullock and George Clooney.
Hard to believe.
$500 million. The biggest movie of the weekend, however, was Thor, which repeated its win from last week. That brings their 10-day total for this superhero movie up to $147 million in 10 days.
You know, of all the great flicks that Clooney has made, right, that this movie would be his number one.
Yeah, right? Yeah. It's fascinating. And let's just call her the Iron Woman from Arizona. Congresswoman Kyrsten Sinema is many things. She is an atheist. She is bisexual. She is also a triathlete. And yesterday, she took part in Arizona's Ironman race, which consists of a 2.4-mile swim, a 112-mile cycle ride, and a 26.2-mile run right after.
You're just listening to it.
Yeah,
it's
right.
insane.
I couldn't do any one of them, right? One of the 3, and she did all 3 in one day.
She had previously said she was training 7 days a week for that race, and they haven't posted the times yet, so I haven't seen it yet. But she finished.
Care about the time.
She finished, so she did pretty damn good.
Yeah, good for her.
There you go.
Iron Lady.
I'll see you out there next year, Bill.
Yeah,
maybe you could go with her.
Okay, here we go. So, Rebecca, I want to talk healthcare with you, but before we do, one other important issue. There's been a lot of controversy over whether or not what the United States is engaged in, namely talks with our allies and Iran, and it was a long time before we couldn't get anything going in terms of talks with Iran. Now we have them going, and yet it's running into a buzzsaw on Capitol Hill, the idea that we might be able to reach a deal with Iran through diplomacy that they would scale back their nuclear program. What's the story here?
Right, and you have obviously the opposite conversation going on Capitol Hill. You have the U.S. talking about the possibility of progress, the possibility of maybe a slight easing of sanctions to kind of facilitate movement on the talks.
In return for their cutting
that's
back.
Right.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, you have on Capitol Hill this push for stronger sanctions. And so you had these series of briefings on Capitol Hill last week, and this is not an unfamiliar situation
John
for
Kerry
the administration.
Himself came up.
That's right. You had members coming out of those briefings skeptical and saying they hadn't heard what they felt like they needed to hear in order to kind of believe the administration's position on this.
But you and I both cover the White House. We're both down there at the briefings, and Jay Carney has said over and over again, and the president himself has said, we will never allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon. I mean, he's been very emphatic on that. So people don't trust him, or what?
Well, it's not so much that they don't trust him necessarily on this issue. It's that they're asking for concrete movement from Iran on in certain areas that Iran is frankly just not going to do at this point. For instance, they want to see the dismantling of certain nuclear reactors that Iran has said are used for peaceful purposes. And so these are moves that Iran just is not going to make regardless, no matter what happens with weapons, no matter what happens in general with the talks. And so, you're having 2 different conversations right now.
They're also hearing from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that any deal with Iran is a bad deal. Now, here Chuck Hagel, Defense Secretary, spoke to this point over the weekend.
The President has said, Secretary Kerry has said, a bad deal is worse than no deal. There will not be a bad deal.
There won't be a bad deal, but Netanyahu is saying any deal's a bad deal, and basically almost trying to run American foreign policy, it seems to me, saying, don't talk with Iran, just bomb them.
I mean, there is a certain risk because, from the Israelis, you do hear this again and again from Netanyahu. You hear the precise same line. Any sort of movement is bad movement. And there is, it's almost kind of white noise, I think, at this point for a certain group of senators, I think. And so that's almost, not to say it's irrelevant. It's not irrelevant. It absolutely means a great deal to a lot of members. But at the same time, those sorts of warnings are not new. They're not unfamiliar from Netanyahu.
So you don't think he's having that big an influence on the debate?
I don't think it's a decisive factor. I think that, what you heard from people coming out of these briefings, that they wanted to hear more by way of concrete classified intelligence. They wanted to hear more precise details about what was being discussed, what was being offered on both sides. And you had some senators coming out saying that they hadn't necessarily heard all the concrete details they wanted to hear. That's very different than talking about the sort of, existential hard line that Netanyahu was discussing.
Rebecca Sinderbrand, Politico.com, here in studio with us. So the big issue remains, of course, and the one that the White House has been struggling the most with, the Affordable Care Act and health care because of the problems with the rollout. So we know the latest. We've talked so much about it. President Obama apologized on Thursday. Friday, they have the vote for the Upton. 39 Democrats say, no, we're going to vote with John Boehner and the Republicans on this one because we think the problems are so bad it needs a legislative fix, not just an executive fix. You've got some rumblings in the Senate. Where are we now? And where do we go from here?
Well, where we are now is looking ahead to this November 30th deadline.
That's the big deal, isn't it?
That's the big deal. Well, you have this series of deadlines that each one of them is going to be, mission critical when we reach it. But this one in particular, I think, because you have a lot of Democrats who they feel like they've been burned on this rollout. They feel like they stood by the White House, they stood by the president on this rollout, and they were burned. And you saw some of that in the vote last week. Now you've had this second promise made by the president of the White House. Look, this is going to be it's not going to be perfect, but the website is going to be functional and it's going to be usable, and you're going to see things relatively up to the level that we would like to see them at by the end of this month. And so if things are not where the president and where the administration say that they will be by the end of the month, and that's not that far away, then you're going to start to see this second wave of skepticism and perhaps even more defectors.
Well, it's no secret, right? I mean, you can go on the website and find out if it's working. They have these briefings every day, some of which Jeff Zients is on.
That's right.
From the CMS, isn't that
That's
the
right.
agency? So what progress has been made? Do we know?
Well, the White House,
are they 50% there, 60, 70? Where are they?
It's hard to get. It's funny because we hear these selected stats. You hear these stats the same as I do at the briefings every single day.
Yeah.
The error rate has declined from this percentage to this percentage. And we get these sort of piecemeal. There's a lot of numbers, of course, that we're missing. And of course, while we're talking about numbers, one of the key numbers, which we still don't have and which we're expecting to get next month, is the demographic breakdown, the all-important, all-critical demographic breakdown of the people who are signing up on the exchanges. You need a certain percentage of young, healthy people signing up, and the administration has not said who has enrolled so far. We don't know if it skews older. We don't know if it skews sicker. We don't know right now if they have the critical demographic mass that they need in order for the exchanges to function as anticipated.
But what do we know, again, about what are the chances that they're going to meet this November 30 deadline? There must be some inclination to that.
No? If you're a Vegas odds maker, then we get these piecemeal updates from the administration. We get some information. We don't have by any means a full picture, and it's not clear whether they do either.
Because we have had lots of calls, lots of stories from people that we've heard from who got on the website and they were able to navigate through the website, bought their insurance, either bought it or they know what they want now and they're just waiting till a deadline and then they'll purchase it.
But we've had this news cycle governed by anecdote on both sides almost, it feels like. We have some concrete stats. We don't have all the concrete stats that we'd like to have to know what the full picture is at this moment. So we have the anecdotal information that says, yeah, I've been able to sign up. I've gotten the help that I need. On the other hand, of course, the other side has plenty of ammunition, plenty of frustrated people who haven't, or plenty of people who've lost their insurance. And so it's kind of, news cycle by dueling anecdote at this moment.
Well, you tell us what your experience has been on the website. I mean, who hasn't tried to get on healthcare.gov? And buying insurance is not all that easy. It's a pretty complicated matter. So I understand there might have been some confusion, but did you find the website working, helpful, get you where you want to go, or not? 866-55-PRESS. If they don't get it fixed by the end of November, they're really going to be in deep doo-doo. I think we'll be back with Rebecca Sinderbrand from Politico. Yes, I got it, from Politico.
This is the Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
So what is Congress going to do, if anything, about this problem of sexual assault and the explosion of the reported cases in the military? We'll talk with Laura Bassett about that in the next half hour from Huffington Post. Right now we're talking Congress, healthcare, and other issues with Rebecca Sinderbrand from Deputy White House Editor for Politico. Rebecca, let's talk about some of the players here. First of all, Democrats in Congress. Obviously, a little nervous.
Just a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah.
39 of them, in fact, saying, well, Mr. President.
And that number could have been higher. So oddly enough, that represents a bit of a victory for the White House. Based on our own kind of reporting.
That they
our
kept it
reporters
under
have-
40, huh?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it could have been around 50 or even a touch higher.
Or even higher. So Democrats are nervous. President Obama met with insurers on Friday.
That's right.
And how did that meeting go? So he wants them to cooperate taking care of these people who bought substandard plans and want to keep them.
That's right. Well, the interesting thing has been you've had a lot of Democrats who've wanted to see the president take a bit of a harder line with the insurance industry than he has to date. Last week kind of represented one of the first times we've heard the president kind of publicly call in the insurance industry, maybe say they're not doing everything that they could be doing since the rollout began, very much depending on their cooperation in this. And so, a lot of them. And so when he came out and made this announcement, he had to make the announcement. He had to put that plan out there. He had to have an alternative for Democrats. You had a lot of grumbling from insurance industry execs who weren't too happy about it. And so they were invited to the White House on Friday, kind of a last minute meeting. The president sat down with them and talk to them about exactly what to expect and what he'd like to see from them as well.
And tomorrow he's meeting with Wall Street CEOs.
That's right.
On healthcare too, right?
Well, he's going to be talking, you're going to hear him obviously touch on healthcare, going to be talking about the economy. One of the interesting things has been to see the White House try to kind of push an economic message simultaneously to this healthcare message and not necessarily seeing it break through the way they'd like.
Which I think what the point they're trying to make is a strong healthcare system helps build a strong economy. And with that, we're out of time. Rebecca, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
See you again soon.
Bill Press Show. on your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go. It's 33 minutes after the hour now here on a Monday morning, November 18, The Bill Press Show, coming to you live from our nation's capital and our studio right here on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. One of the big issues that's been dominating discussion in the United States Congress this year is the issue of sexual assault, particularly in the military. Several hearings have been held, and covering this issue for Huffington Post, reporter Laura Bassett all over it, and in studio with us again this morning. Hey, Laura, good to see you.
Hey, always good to be here.
Let's talk first of all about the dimensions of this problem. I mean, it's a very serious matter in the military.
It's a massive, massive problem, and the reports keep going up, and the prosecution rates are just insanely low. I mean, like 3% of cases actually get a real prosecution that ends in something bad happening to the perpetrator. It's terrible. Because of
that this is not going through the regular judicial system, and these are military courts that have additional authorities?
Well, there's a lot of problems. I think the main problem is that women who get sexually assaulted in the military are afraid to report it because they have to report it to their commander, and the commander is often either the perpetrator or a friend of the perpetrator, and the women get retaliated against. They get kicked out of the military, they get disciplined, and the man that they're accusing, nothing ever happens to him. We've seen story after story where the guy gets these medals and awards and the woman gets kicked out of the military because she reported a rape. So they just don't report.
And there have been stories where people have been found guilty by the military judge, and then the commander overturns it,
exactly.
Which he has the authority to do.
Exactly.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And usually it's he having to, right?
That's right.
All right. So there have been all these hearings, and is there legislation to deal with it?
Yes, there's sort of a civil war going on among Democrats in the Senate. It's really not a partisan issue, but it's very political. Senator Gillibrand, along with the unlikely allies Rand Paul and Ted Cruz, are pushing a bill that would take sexual assault cases out of the chain of command, so that if a woman is raped or sexually assaulted, she would go straight to an independent, specially appointed prosecutor with it and not have to report it to her commander. And they believe this would increase reporting and take away the commander's ability to retaliate. On the other side, we've got Senator Claire McCaskill, along with Senator Ayotte and Lindsey Graham, and I mean it's bipartisan on both sides.
And Carl Levin.
Carl Levin, right, is on that
Claire
side.
McCaskill.
Right. Harry Reid hasn't come down either way yet. And they're saying that it would, they're agreeing with the Pentagon. The Pentagon strongly opposes Gillibrand's bill and says it would undermine good order and discipline, which is always their argument for every change in the military, if you take these cases out of the chain of command and leave the commander out of it.
Right. They made the same argument about getting rid of don't ask, don't tell.
And letting women in combat, and any big change that happens in the military, they say it's going to undermine good order and discipline.
Well, don't they? I don't understand where Carl Levin is on this bill. I haven't had a chance to talk to him about it, but it seems from what you said earlier that the military hasn't been doing a very good job with this problem. I mean, the numbers keep getting higher and higher.
Right. And that's exactly Senator Gillibrand's point, is what kind of good order and discipline do we have now if women and men are being raped all the time and there's no justice for them? But it's not like McCaskill and Levin want to do nothing. They have a bill as well, and it has a lot of strong reforms. It just doesn't take the sticking point is whether to take the cases outside of the chain of command.
Right.
So they would make retaliation a crime. They would appoint a special victim advocate. McCaskill's bill has a number of reforms that don't include taking cases out of the chain of command.
Okay. So where does this stand now? Are they got this? You call it the Civil War. When and where does this come to a head? Will there be a vote on both bills, or?
Yes, they're both happening this week with the NDAA bill and.
You lost me there on that. And
the defense authorization bill, this big defense spending bill. These are amendments to that, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And so
they will both be offered as amendments to it.
Yes. And Lindsey Graham is threatening to filibuster Gillibrand's bill. And so she would need a 60-vote majority in order to pass hers. I spoke with her last week. She is currently very close to having 60, but doesn't have a full 60, but she's really confident that she will because she thinks a lot of people are on her side and just haven't publicly said it yet because they're waiting for the debates, including Harry Reid, who would be a very important person to support her bill.
I'm reading here ABC News story that she has, I'm sure you reported the same, 47 announced supporters.
Right, exactly.
47 public supporters.
Yes, and she's confident that she has 60 that just haven't come out yet and said they're supporting her bill.
16 of the 20 women in the Senate have supported Kirsten Gillibrand's bill to take it away from the military command.
Right.
So is Claire McCaskill here? You've interviewed both of them, correct?
Yes.
Is Claire McCaskill just standing up for the Pentagon here? I mean, is she just fronting for the Pentagon?
That is what the narrative among victims advocates and everything has said. That I think one article came out that especially bothered her that said Claire McCaskill is the number one roadblock to real reform, and that upset her so much because she was a former prosecutor of sexual assault cases. I mean, she has prosecuted more sexual assaults than anyone else in the Senate, and she believes that it really is a bad thing to. She calls it pink courts to make a separate court for military sexual assault cases. She calls it a pink court. She says it's unconstitutional. She says there's no way you can do it. She says that it would increase retaliation against victims because commanders would be annoyed that the victims went around them and reported it outside. She says you have to hold commanders accountable. And she's frustrated that Gillibrand is winning the sort of PR fight on this and that she's being painted as, Pentagon versus victims. And so it's going to come down to, a real debate on the minutia of the policy.
Has the Obama administration taken a stand on either bill?
No. As far as I know, they have not. That's a good question, though. I need to double check on that. But they've been kind of hands off on this.
Yeah,
as has leadership.
I haven't heard. I mean, they've spoken about the seriousness of the problem and how there has to be some action taken. But I haven't heard from Carney. I don't know whether that question has. They've been asked that question directly.
Right. Well, it would be interesting because they would be opposing the Pentagon.
If I have a chance, I'll ask it today. But yeah. So where's the Pentagon?
The Pentagon is with McCaskill and strongly opposes the idea of taking these cases out of the chain of command. So for the White House to come down on the side of Gillibrand, it would be
yeah, maybe
a rift in the administration.
Maybe they'll just have it. And Harry Reid, we don't know. Huh?
Harry Reid has not said which one he'll support, but Senator Gillibrand told me that she has a strong hunch that he's coming down on her side.
Yeah. And as you said, it's not a partisan battle, right? I mean, this is not Republican versus Democrat. This is
her biggest allies are Ted Cruz and Rand Paul on this issue. So it's very much non-partisan. It's just about the policy.
And interesting enough, as I think you mentioned some of these names, with Claire McCaskill joining her in her approach, leaving it with the military chain of command, includes Carl Levin, who's of course head of the Armed Services Committee in the Senate, John McCain, also with Jack Reed, Democratic senator from Rhode Island. And 3 of the committee's women, McCaskill herself, Kelly Ayotte from New Hampshire, and Deb Fisher from Nebraska.
Right.
So the breakdown is not one that you can necessarily predict.
Exactly.
Isn't the risk that having this rift between the two mean that nothing will happen?
Something will happen. Claire McCaskill's bill will pass. They're not mutually exclusive. I think that McCaskill's bill is really non-controversial and it will pass. It's just a matter of whether Gillibrand's passes as well. And Gillibrand believes that if her bill doesn't pass, McCaskill's reforms won't go far enough.
Mm-hmm. Right. So you could have, interesting. I hate to see these. They're 2 great senators, I think.
They are. They are.
Hate to see them in this battle.
And it's really interesting to see McCaskill in this position because, she won it against Todd Aiken and the whole question in that campaign was about rape victims and, so she is extremely frustrated right now.
There are some other issues, too, including that we want to talk with Laura Bassett about, including a bill coming up that would codify Roe v. Wade. That's been a long time in coming.
Right.
You talk about a battle of battles. Mother of all battles, maybe, coming up in the Senate. We'll be talking about that and taking your calls on this question, military assault. If you have any sexual assault in the military, any comments or questions for Laura Bassett, 866-55-PRESS on a Monday, November 18. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, here we go. 12 minutes before the hour on a Monday morning, November 18, from the great Huffington Post. Laura Bassett in studio with us. She covers women's issues for Huffington Post. We've been talking a lot about the controversy, two camps, if you will, each led by a Democratic woman in the United States Senate on a different approach to trying to end this problem, or at least tamper down this problem of sexual assault in the military. Now, Laura, you mentioned this. Senator Blumenthal is moving in a pro-choice direction. We see so much legislation against the right of choice. This is to reaffirm it?
Right. So? This is really historic. It's a big pro-choice bill. It codified Roe versus Wade, the 1973 Supreme Court decision that said states cannot ban abortion before the fetus is viable outside the womb, or present an undue burden to a woman seeking an abortion. And so, obviously, the past 3 years, the states have passed a crazy amount of bills, just chipping away at women's ability to get an abortion, making it hard for clinics to stay open with these onerous regulations, and passing mandatory ultrasound bills and mandatory waiting periods. And so this bill would essentially prevent the states from passing any of those bills. And Senator Blumenthal introduced it in the Senate. It's also going to be introduced in the House. And it's the first time since 1994 that the Democrats have really gone on the offensive with this issue. And in 94, they passed a bill saying that that you couldn't, no violence outside of clinics. It basically protected women going into abortion clinics, and that passed. And this is really the first time since then that they've done a big pro-choice bill like this.
Mm-hmm. How long has it been? I mean, was it just introduced? I haven't seen much about this. I haven't seen anything about it in the media. So,
right,
is it new? And
it's new.
Does it have any co-sponsors? And where is it?
It was just introduced last Thursday, so it's a couple days old.
Oh, all right.
And
okay. That's why I haven't heard much about it.
You're not late on it. It's got 29 so far co-sponsors in the Senate. No Republicans, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's sort of going head-to-head against Senator Lindsey Graham's 20-week abortion ban that he just introduced in the Senate. So there's sort of an anti-abortion and a pro-choice bill going at each other in the Senate right now. Obviously, Senator Blumenthal's bill has no chance of passing in the House. It could pass in the Senate, but I think it's just sort of symbolically important that they're saying Republicans are willing to stick their necks out to prevent women from accessing abortion. We're going to stick our necks out on the other side.
And it's certainly going to get the conversation going, but you could expect no action on it this year, I would assume, right?
Probably not. Yeah.
There is time left, but not according to the congressional calendar.
Right. Not a whole lot. Yeah.
I mean,
he wants to get the ball rolling and the conversation started. Like if Republicans are willing to do this, so are we.
Mm-hmm. We now have so Claire McCaskill and Kirsten Gillibrand, two women going against each other on this issue of sexual assault in the military. Might we see Hillary Clinton and Elizabeth Warren warring against each other for the Democratic nomination for president?
Warren hasn't said anything, obviously, but I think it's actually I wouldn't be surprised, and I think that Warren might give Hillary a run for her money. I think Hillary is sort of being associated with Obama, and especially with this disastrous Obamacare rollout, and Bill Clinton having kind of stuck his neck out for Obama a couple of months ago, and trying to sway the American public towards Obamacare. Now Hillary's associated with it too, and Warren is sort of the more liberal darling of the two, and so I could see it happening.
Yeah, there's that issue, and then the issue, I think, still not counting Hillary Clinton out at all, but there's still her vote in support of the Iraq War, which obviously created a big problem for her in 2008.
Right.
With Barack Obama. Hasn't gone away, and you just have that plus Obamacare to account for. What is Elizabeth Warren saying? You cover her. Have you talked? I mean, is she really have her eye on?
She says the same thing that
moving beyond the Senate.
She says the same thing that Chris Christie says, and that Kirsten Gillibrand says, and anybody who is suspected of running for president. She says, "I'm just focused on representing Massachusetts," and that really doesn't mean anything. So I don't think we're going to get anything out of her for a while.
Yeah. All right. And we know what politicians mean when they say that, right?
Right.
Okay. Hey, Laura, thanks so much for coming in today. All right. So this showdown on the military assault may happen this week.
Yes,
right?
it is happening this week.
It is happening this week.
Tune in.
Tune in. Yeah, I put my money on Kirsten Gillibrand.
I would too.
Yeah. Laura Bassett from the Huffington Post is HuffingtonPost.com, of course. Thank you, Laura, again, and I'll be back with today's parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show. The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
And on this Monday, November 18, my parting shot for today, there's nothing worse than watching politicians panic, and we are certainly seeing Democrats, a lot of them, panic today over the Affordable Care Act. And think about it. Just 1 month ago, Democrats were convinced a government shutdown would cause Republicans to lose the House. And yet today, a lot of Democrats are worried that problems with Obamacare will cause them to lose their seats in Congress. How silly. True, the rollout of Obamacare was a disaster and still is for the most part, and President Obama didn't help things by sowing confusion about people being able to keep their existing crappy insurance plans. But look, this is only November 13. It's a whole year before Democrats stand for re-election. Any problems with the website or existing substandard insurance policies will be fixed long before then. And the important thing to remember is, even with its rocky start, Obamacare means that 40 million Americans who could never afford health insurance before will now have protection for themselves and their families for the very first time. Meanwhile, All Republicans have to offer is putting insurance companies back in charge, rejecting anybody with a pre-existing condition. We don't want to go back there. So come on, Democrats, show some backbone. You voted for Obamacare. Don't run away from it now. My parting shot for today. Tomorrow we'll be joined by Igor Volsky from Think Progress, Arthur Delaney from Huffington Post, and a lot more action. So go out and have a great Monday, folks. We'll see you back here again tomorrow. You bet. Have a good one.
This is the Bill Press Show.